Hey, I'm Josh. We're here at Bel Air Charters and we're going to do a toolbox review. Alright, this is the socket drawer. Got ratchets, sockets. This is the best ratchet ever made. Pro tip. This is my one snap-on socket. I don't know where I got it. You got big stuff for big stuff. Cheap sockets are the best sockets. You can cut them up and grind on them and make them shorter, and doesn't hurt. This is the wrench drawer. For as disorganized as everything looks, I actually try to keep the drawers in pretty tidy shape. Big fan of Icon wrenches. They never had one strip a bolt that a Snap-on or a Mac wouldn't have stripped too. This is probably my favorite wrench. I don't think you can even get them anymore, but they go really big and they fit in a lot of places and you can flip them around and it becomes a pipe wrench. So it's pretty cool. Got some ratcheting box end wrenches. I work on buses, so nothing too crazy on buses, nothing huge. We've got a few big wrenches up to like 1.25 inches, but don't use those too much. That's for like tranny cooler lines and caliper bolts. Most of it's pretty simple. These are all Pittsburgh and Icons. Got some ratcheting big ones. They come in handy for doing airbag bolts. There's not a whole lot of big bolts on buses, so don't really have a whole lot in that variety. Just got these, haven't even got to use them yet, but I'm pretty excited about them because I've had to bend wrenches and break wrenches to do what these will do without doing that. So pretty excited about that. Got an assortment of flare wrenches. Rounding over airlines is a really good way to make a nice day go bad. Got all the pliers. Can't go wrong with too many pliers. These are awesome for getting all the things that you dropped down in engine bays, and these actually work really good on coolant clamps, the spring type on like the Ford minibuses and stuff. For some reason I haven't found anything better. I think these are Pittsburgh too. They were probably like 15 bucks for a set of 3. They're pretty cheap and definitely save the day a lot of times because magnets always break and then you can't fish stuff out. These pliers, I don't use them a whole lot, but when I need them, they can grip stuff like bolts that have heads ripped off. They're Snap-on ones actually. I think I got these from a friend of mine who quit being a mechanic. But these can grip even hardened bolts so hard you can break them loose. It's insane. Lots of channel locks, oil filter wrenches, different kind of dikes and needle nose pliers. Cable cutters are awesome for cutting just about everything. Just make sure the power's off when you do it so you don't turn them into wire strippers. This is surprisingly useful. I was using it today just to get a brake shoe on. The roller pin on it popped out and I was able to just pull the brake shoe down, slip it back in without taking everything apart. So tools from other trades sometimes work really good. Got screwdrivers and picks. Again, it's all Icon, but I lost 2 of my screwdrivers and I'm really upset about that. And I don't want to go buy a whole new set. That's the one thing I hate about Harbor Freight is you have to buy the whole set. You can't just buy onesie twosies unless they've got an open box. This is the old Percussive maintenance drawer. Brute force is the fastest way to make anything happen once. So I've got a big assortment of hammers. I've got a 12-pound sledgehammer here too. This recently has become my favorite hammer. It can get in places that the ball peen hammers can't, and it's 3 pounds. So you can swing it hard enough to do some damage. I got it for my birthday last year from myself. I love this thing. This does anything that something short of a sledgehammer won't do. And I don't even know where I got it. It just showed up in my toolbox one day. Here's another tool that I don't know where I got. I think it's for old split rim tires, but just the right shape to get in somewhere and pull something straight or bend it to where it needs to be, pop a spring on something. It's pretty awesome. Got welding stuff, got hood, back from when I was a welder. Cutting goggles, these are awesome and they make you look cool when you put them up on top of your head. And I've never been a big fan of welding gloves, so these are just buffalo hide gloves from the hardware store. They're like $8. They're also really nice during the winter, so kind of dual purpose. If you ever need a colonoscopy, don't ask to borrow this, but it's been some pretty gross places, so it's kind of a lifesaver when you need it. This is an endoscope or a boroscope. So got a little camera right on the end, and you can feed it down a spark plug hole, make sure you didn't get dirt in there or find a bolt that you dropped. It goes on this, it's got a little screen, and yeah, you can fish it in all kinds of places. This is the old Midwest junk drawer. Got air blowers, pens. Again, tools from other trades. Stethoscope can sometimes find sounds that you can't tell where they're coming from. You just put that up against a noisy bearing or different things. I mean, clicky lifters, you name it. If it's hard to pinpoint, this will often get you where you need to be. It's also really loud. You got to be careful. You put it in your ears and then you start banging it on stuff and your ears will be ringing pretty quick. Here's a assortment of torque wrenches from really little down to just a couple inch pounds. Well, I guess 40 inch pounds. Got adapters to make big sockets go on little things and little sockets go on big things. I've never seen anybody else have these, but speed wrenches are really cool and they're quiet. I don't know if that's really important to most people, but I like them. This is the air ratchet or the impact before the air ratchet and the impact. I mean, it's kind of like a brace and drill from, yeah, the 1700s or whatever, but hey, you just stab a socket on there and run it on, run it off. They're actually awesome for doing spark plugs because you can feel when they get tight, or if you're cross-threading something, there's no excess amount of torque. Just doing really quick assembly. They're nice. They just speed jobs up. You don't have to bring batteries or air, and you can get nuts and bolts in really fast. Just got an assortment of hex and Torx bits, spark plug wrenches, because even though I'm a diesel mechanic for the most part, we still have minibuses and I work on a lot of V10s. Got a pretty decent assortment of impacts. This is probably my favorite guy, a little 3/8, super fast. It doesn't break stuff, either taking it apart or putting it together. Usually it's just on low, and I go back over it with a torque wrench. I use a lot of air tools. I've got the Milwaukee Impacts 3/8 stubby guy. Still use my air ratchet a lot. It's really loud, but it's smaller than a battery one and faster, so I like it. And then just a bunch of air fittings for hooking stuff up, testing things. You can air buses up and test airbags or brakes or all the different systems on there. Got my electrical diagnostic stuff. This is one of the only snap-on tools I've ever bought, and it was horribly expensive. But this Bluetooth to my phone, and I'm sure you've noticed that buses are really long. So I can hook this up to something in the back and go sit in the front and turn a switch on or crank the starter or whatever, and I can see what it's doing from the driver's seat while this is hooked up in the back. So kind of a indispensable tool, and I haven't seen anybody else doing that. So yeah, I've got another multimeter around here somewhere. Actually, I think it's at my house, but it's got an amp clamp on it. Super nice for testing alternators and stuff. Got drills. Air drill works really good for a wire wheel, cleaning off rotors and hubs and just tidying things up before you put it back together. Sometimes we have to do fab, so I got angle grinder and cut off wheels, flappy discs. Sometimes we gotta cut broken brackets out, or buses get hit in a roundabout or something and fenders are all bent in and we gotta cut the old stuff out, or make jigs to pull things off. Hubs get stuck on, and we ended up having to go up to Tiger Tool and buy a hub puller, but in the meantime the guys made one of their own. So yeah, we'll do fab. We've got welding skills. We do the whole gambit from the comfort of our shop instead of on the side of the road or on the side of a mountain. We use a lot of hot glue. Buses have a lot of interior stuff that it just kind of snaps together, and there's a lot of plastic parts. And when you have 100 people a day or 200 people a day riding on your buses, things end up getting cracked. People pick at things and wiggle things while they're going down the road, and hot glue is the quickest way to get it back on the road. We use it for sticking our dash cams on too. They'll pop off no matter what, so we just hot glue them back on. There's the leftovers of my previous career as a machinist. I don't miss it. Being a mechanic is way better. Way less stressful, believe it or not. That's just a bunch of random air tools that don't work. I should probably just throw them away. Got leftovers from fixing my truck this weekend. Blew an intake manifold gasket and puked all the coolant out on the freeway. Had to get a tow truck, which is really embarrassing as a mechanic to be sitting in the Harbor Freight parking lot going, I guess I gotta call a tow truck. Not being able to fix it when the whole parts or the whole tool store is in front of you. But that's what towing insurance is for. Got all my headlamps. Probably plug this guy in so it's ready for tomorrow. Live with a headlamp on my head. Realized that I basically have a uniform and it's a black shirt, gray pants or shorts, and a headlamp. Unless I'm at home working on my house, that's what I'm wearing. Even to church, it's pretty much what I wear. Really like this guy. I won't blind the camera, but it's a Nebo 4K Slide King. Does that, and you can stick it to a hood that's up or in an engine bay and see what you're doing when you're on the side of the road. I've also, if you hold the button down, turns red. I've clipped that on my belt when I'm on the side of the road, just so people don't decide to play Schmuck the Mechanic. Doing blowouts on the side of the freeway is a real blast. These are mostly empty. Got heat shrink and zip ties and random bits and bobs. There's nothing in here. This actually came from a bakery and I thought it was cool. And it's kind of just turned into a place to stash junk. And I'm thinking about getting rid of it. Don't forget to oil your nuts, boys. At least in Washington, you're supposed to put a drop of oil on the lugs. So ketchup bottle works really good from a taco truck or a hot sauce bottle. So got one full of ATF for all my air tools. And then almost a condiment bottle, but that's ATF and diesel for penetrating lubricant. Works really good. Baling wire, unending uses. I made a jumper wire to test an electric fan the other day with this, but whatever you need to do, it does everything. It's the most useful thing there is. Everybody will say zip ties, baling wire is where it's at. This is pretty cool. I made this. The buses run really high air pressures and they've got TPMSs, so they're finicky. So you can see what you're working on here and shut it on and off without having to work and get this on every time you want to check what the pressure is. And then you can also just clip this on, and if your tire pressure is too high, you just open it up and let it drain. Works really good. Been laughed at a lot about this, but I don't really care. I think it works good. These are underrated. They make life so much more pleasant when you're using air tools. Get yourself a big box of earplugs. You'll want to be able to hear your grandkids someday. This is probably the only other interesting tool I've got. This goes in line with the shop air. And you can turn it down just below the purge valve cutoff. And so you can keep your bus or whatever you're working on aired up without it constantly popping off in your face while you're trying to diagnose a leaking airbag or a leveling valve or whatever is going on. So just being able to regulate the air down is really nice. You ever seen the bottom of a bus? Well, if you want, we can take a look at what we work on here. The old bus is up in the air right now, so no laying on your back to do oil changes or transmission services. This one I just got done doing front drum brakes on. Somehow an anchor pin popped out and the shoe was just floating around in there. The driver said, oh, when I step on the brakes, it pulls left. Well, it's when you know you need to look at the right side. So pulled the wheel off and that's what was going on. So new drums, new shoes, new hardware, and it'll be on the road tomorrow. I think this one weighs about 47,000 pounds. So it's always fun looking up and realizing that if for some reason it did fall, it's the last thing you're gonna remember is looking up. That's the Toolbox tour. Thanks for watching. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comment below and I'll answer as many as I can. Once again, head over to FortisHG.com for any tools, tracks, or parts you need. If you want to watch another video, you can click here.